the only one standing between you and coffee break, and it's a very good few seconds of ominous music playing with the Russian born in Moscow telling you about the market you've probably, well, had only a vivid imagination about. So, yeah, and time's up. Yeah. Yeah. So, I'm very good friends with Rob, and actually all the picture being trimmed previously was with me taking the stage at Next Bank in Rome in 2012. So had my fair share of failures and occasional success. So I've contributed setting up 2 successful innovation labs for Russian banks, 2011, 2013, then helped to found banks now part of the postal banking system, and then really got the bug of fintech and completely veered off and derailed my banking career, and set up a payment service provider with a team that we've sold quite successfully now, all upon advising various startups and the several investment agencies around the world, including the Berlin partner. I'm also doing an envoy thing for the Russian Fintech Association, so do mind also that certain ideas that I'll share with you on how the Russian fintech market is developing do not necessarily represent the opinion of the Russian Fintech Association or its members, but I'll do my best to align and keep those ideas in check. So I want to share with you 3 key facts about the Russian fintech markets. First one is that it's effectively a leapfrog market, going and quite rapidly developing and digitizing the payments and all other aspects of the financial services domain, including lending, remote services, mobile banking, and so going pretty much straight from cash to mobile, where in 2013 was effectively the date when the number of transactions done digitally surpassed the number of transactions done with cash, and primarily pushed by the majors operating through, which is now 11 time zones. It's a very huge market where previously had to maintain hundreds of thousands of employees to basically service all these various small and big cities, and now through the joint cooperation by the incumbents as well as fintechs and the regulator, certain standards are being developed to try and provide digital identity, open API, real-time payments network, and all other elements that would allow both the incumbents to radically cut the cost of servicing the population, as well as allow fintechs to utilize and get the data that the incumbents would be openly sharing with both with each other and with this new challenges. And so the copy-paste nature of the fintechs originally just, thanks to the availability of TechCrunch, so people having a very small idea that originally they just borrowed from this medium. The nature of fintech is slowly changing with some original ideas based on viable and scalable technologies. They start to propagate and even enter new geographies, and scale is very, very much important. That differentiates just bold ideas from very successful fintech operations. So in just coming few slides, I'll show you the real examples of some very good innovation done by both the incumbents, by big banks, really facing the new paradigm and facing the shift of people moving from tele-based service an offline world and doing pretty much everything in the digital realm, and doing so thanks to the services offered by the internet platforms, as well as services provided by the challengers. They're only been on the market for 5-10 years. So what's the background? What's the story for the Russian fintech market? So in my view, it all started with the prepaid nature of paying for things that people started to get through the airwaves, through mobile network that started developing in early 2000, and with available mobile networks and handsets, people started to both paying for them, to prepay for them, to do top up all other services that started propagate and utilize this platform of wireless communication. And with that, they caught the habit of pretty much doing and paying for things, for a number of things. And prepaid effectively created a platform effect that gave way to a number of innovations like reverse terminals, kiosks that people started depositing cash because the infrastructure of ATMs and the user experience of working with an ATM or just standing in a queue and trying to pay for things at a bank branch no longer satisfy them. And as the efficiency and the easiness of you communicating with the web transcended and then started to influence the experience you would have wanted to have in a bank, it gave certain entrepreneurs an idea about how you could circumvent and go past the incumbent intermediary. So new platforms operating totally in an online world started to appear, and wallets came to be known and quite quickly propagated, and at some point of time there was a risk that banks would totally lose the front end and the customer interaction layer, with people starting using prepaid wallets like provided by the likes of Kiwi, which then ended up filing for a very successful IPO in NASDAQ in 2013. So a little bit more on that later. So now the fintech market, the financial service innovation market in Russia, it's all about progressing and using the financial data and the relationship established through the online channel and integrating and contextualizing these financial decisions and the interaction that the traditional players have, and augmenting that with additional data sets that both banks as well as the internet services are trying to integrate to provide a more natural service that we all want to really proactively advise on things that we crave for and buy. So even the incumbents like Sberbank, they were going from operating and offering traditional services in B2B and B2C segment and going past that to also enter new domains of expertise, and sometimes all these huge giants like Sberbank, Yandex, and Mail.ru, like the other two internet-based platforms, they snap up and acquire new additional services, like Sberbank, for example, last year acquiring a telemedicine service provider to try and test about how medical services can be rendered in a truly digital form and provided and coupled with the financial transactions to try to both motivate you to spend money on your health, because, that's a big cause of concern with people getting older, as well as getting the sense that it'll make a big economic sense for you to turn and push medical services into complete digital form and not spend that much money on physical infrastructure. So in regards to the market, so estimates differ about how many startups are currently operating on the market, and you would at first be amazed about how little the number is, given how big the country is. But it's all due to the love-hate relationship between, say, the Russian authorities and the development agencies. So we don't have that many capital available by the development agencies funding the financial sector, which was originally believed to be the fiefdom of just corporate relationship between the huge oil and gas companies and banks. So the deposit space of the Russian financial market is still heavily dependent on the corporates. So there was relatively little need to try and innovate the retail end of it. But now it's slowly changing, and based on certain estimates, there are between 100 and 150 fintech startups, a number of segments, but all of them more or less focusing on trying to helping the business side of the incumbents of the banks, so the end market and the exit market scenario for any fintech in Russia currently is to be acquired by the bank, and that's also a detrimental factor because there's only a limited number of players that you could consider as willing to buy these very startups. So It's B2B2C. It's focused on cutting the cost to income because of the amount of money would originally need to try and service this huge country. Yeah, so the ecosystem is still forming. So what's currently lacking is the number of angels and accelerators. There are about 3 acceleration programs available for fintechs in Russia. Well, it's very early stage. So talking about, say, incumbents vis-a-vis challenges. So we'll take, for example, Sberbank, or Savings Bank of Russia, like a juggernaut, taking more than half of the total banking system profits last year. It's 157 years old, but I don't think it's that dinosaur. It's really a very efficient platform that calls itself an internet platform with a financial service license. Its cost to income rate is about 38. So it's on par with leading Silicon Valley internet companies compared to the traditional 60s that CTI rate that the US banks have. And so it invests heavily in AI, machine learning techniques to try to cut costs with regards to how it serves customers online remotely. It's recently implemented a bot that will drastically cut cost of collection, whereas it miraculously understands the context of the particular problem that those people that will fail to repay their debt have. And it also invests heavily in mobile, and you can check on both Android and iTunes market is by far one of the best ratings, with several thousands of people voting. It's by far one of the best mobile apps available. It also operates a very successful P2P scheme where, apart from sending money from account to account, Russia, since 2013, got the habit of sending money to a bank card, and Sberbank roughly takes about half of retail P2P market by basically operating like a closed loop scheme, issuing their cards available and allowing free and instant delivery of money. While having this juggernaut, you still have a number of challenges. Quite successfully penetrating and offering their own remote digital services. So take, for example, Tinkoff. You've heard about a number of digital challenges in the UK, like Atom, Monzo, Revolut, but you've probably never heard about Tinkoff. It's by far a $3 billion enterprise now traded on LSE. It's profitable. It has about 6 million customers. It has also a very advanced mobile offering. It offers its product direct, it has no branches, so all the cards and the apps delivered through remote channels. And, it's really an innovative idea of a very simple card-based product delivered at scale. And that's what enabled it to become profitable in this quite acidic environment that Russia is. Another one is Kiwi that I've told you about, that since operating a very vast network of reverse terminals that allow people to deposit cash when they were just basically digitizing cash, they've quite successfully entered a period of a number of great B2C innovations, launching P2P transfers using only mobile phones as a token of transfer, then adding a number of other social tokens you could use to initiate a transfer. They really pioneered what became known as Visa Direct service, as they were the very first global player to do so in 2013, initiating the very first AFT-OCT transaction. And it filed for a very successful IPO on NASDAQ in 2013, being the #1 mobile wallet with about 16 million people using it to pay for things, to transfer money, to pay for internet goods. So the majority of successful cases for the Russian fintech, well, are those that are put at scale. The ability to attract global investors, well, especially in these environments, heavily politicized, well, is in doubt. So it as well pushes, well, certain ambitious companies outside of the border, as well as might also initiate a pivot looking for financing in the Southeast Asian market. And the innovation is currently, well, stimulated by commoditization of the core business, well, posing a very potent question of whether banks should compete not just with themselves and with the challenges in fintechs, but with the internet companies, with the internet platforms. So we're talking quite quickly about crypto, as it's becoming a very potent point. So the craze is still there, but the regulator will seize this element as a commodity, and now, well, two separate bills are being mulled to try and regulate this. Yet there's very much an interest about how you could utilize the underlying blockchain technology. And to address all these challenges in commune fashion, the current players, the major banks and the central bank, they've jointly enacted and founded the Russian Fintech Association that structured a number of initiatives focused on providing the efficiency of scale, stability and security, and enabling value-added services through open APIs and digital identity. And, well, these are, well, there's several founders, well, among them the major players in the financial market. And if you want to learn more about the developments of the financial services space in Russia, so these are the links that might get you, and you can read more. Thank you so much.
Great, thank you, Dan. That's great, Daniel. Thank you very much. Thanks, Dan. Great, we've got a quick break now for about